YouTube. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news today. Well, not so much the bearer, more so just the messenger, but I'm going to slap it up on screen here. I'm sure you all know if you're keeping up with Xdefiant the way I did, but just in case you don't, it is true, Xdefiant is officially dead. I'm going to put up the screenshot of Mark Rubin's tweet that he put out, and I just wanted to make this video to kind of end my chapter on the Xdefiant saga and give my honest reaction, thoughts, and next steps for like what's gonna be for my channel. And to describe, it's funny, I'm gonna do this live instead of, I usually have a script in front of me with like just like a bullet point. It's like a loose script, but just to keep my thoughts in order. But I really want to do this one live and off the cuff, so to speak, just to kind of give my honest emotions and feedback on it. And it's funny, I was actually at the Hornets game, live watching the Hornets basketball game, and my buddy Zach, who you always see in my duo commentaries, texted me the screenshot, and I was like, damn, that's a good way to put a damper on the night. And then we lost on top of that too, so it was just like double damn. The words that I would use to really describe how I felt when I read that were, just disappointment, because I did love the game, and just confusion. And not confusion about how could this ever happen next to find. If you guys have followed me since the beginning, you kept up with my videos, for the most part, I try to do my best to be very objective. Obviously, I had the personal bias towards the game because I did like the game. But I do my best to be objective, and I highlighted many of the problems that this game had. Since the beginning, I've never glazed this game or just been like a mindless defender. I recognize the faults. Where the confusion really comes from me is the timing of this announcement. For those who don't know, Season 3 was about to release, I think within like the next couple weeks, a month at the latest. And Season 3 was slated to be one of the most content-filled, transformative seasons. And in a lot of people's eyes, this was going to be like the flashpoint, the turning point to determine whether or not the game was going to survive or die. And so for it to be announced that it's canned, confirmed, and no more new users, and the server's gonna be shut down sometime early next year before the season even drops, is just really strange and baffling to me. To me, if they were going to can the game due to low player count, and now we know, like before it was kind of speculative, and people had like the optimism, maybe it's not as bad as people were saying it is. No, clearly the player count was bad, and that's why they're shutting it down. But if the player count really truly was that bad for this long, to me, you should have either shut it down soon after Season 2, maybe midway through Season 2, or wait until after Season 3. Because they're still releasing Season 3, and they're going to allow us to play until early next year. And if that's the case, and you're going to release all the content, why not wait until you see how the public reception, the public perspective of the game, and how the player numbers fluctuate post Season 3? Because Season 3 was going to introduce some things that people have been demanding and honestly been holding the game back, and being namely prestige mode and endgame progression loops, which is one of the number one things that people have been demanding that this game add. So to me, it was just really strange how they choose to end it without seeing how Season 3 impacts the player retention and player base going forward. I completely understand, Season 3 drops, player count is still bad, they don't view it as a profitable investment going forward, then by all means, cancel it. I don't know the numbers behind the game and how the money looks and all that stuff. But to cancel it right before it drops, but then you're going to still drop new content, just very odd. And of course, if you've been following Ubisoft as a parent company overall, you know that they've been struggling and they are bleeding hard right now. You can look at their stock value over the past couple months. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. There are plenty of other YouTubers who have covered that in much better detail than I ever could. But yeah, Ubisoft is overall in just a terrible, terrible spot right now. And so for Xdefiant to get cut, again, not shocking, but it is disappointing because I truly did love the game. And now I just want to give a quick retrospective of the game. I'm somebody who followed it not super far into the beta, not super far back, but ever since it dropped Season 0 to now, and somebody who, I was never a paid partner of Ubisoft or Xdefiant. I didn't make any money off the game, but I still chose to make a YouTube channel after it because I just loved the game. I was that passionate about it. I just want to do a quick retrospective. And I think the biggest reason why Xdefiant failed was just gross mismanagement by both the devs and Ubisoft, but I really want to focus on the Ubisoft side of things. So, one of the biggest ways that this game was mismanaged was honestly allowing it to drop in a half-baked state. When it dropped in Season 0, no prestige mode, no end-game progression loop like challenges or anything like that. You only had the weapon mastery camo grind in its early stages. There was no rank mode, so it was very bare bones. And then on top of all that, you had the gameplay issues that need to be ironed out, such as the netcode and all that stuff. I don't have to go into detail. I've covered it before. Other people have covered it before. The details on the specific gameplay stuff is relevant at this point. And for you to release a game in a half-baked state, which is unfortunately the norm for a majority of big game release titles nowadays, a lot of them because live service, you can just update the patches in. It's not a surprise that it happened. But if you aren't a huge popular game, you're not a popular company, Ubisoft is not popular in the public opinion, and then you have a gigantic IP coming down the pipeline in a few months, being Call of Duty, a direct competitor with you, you gotta make sure that this game was in a good spot to make a splash and then keep the majority of the players. No matter how good a game is, you're gonna lose a decent chunk of the players that you have after the honeymoon phase runs over. Like, that's just natural. Call of Duty is experiencing right now. They're experiencing player losses, even though it's a much better game than Xdefiant. In the majority of people's opinion, every game goes through that. But my point is, when you know a direct competitor that is one of the biggest IPs of the year, whether you love Call of Duty, hate Call of Duty, indifferent, whatever, it is always year over year one of the biggest IPs that drops every year. And you got to make a big splash, and then you got to do your best to keep the players. And releasing a half-baked game without a majority of features, including the end game progression and grindable loops, such as the prestige mode and a good rank system, that was just going to spell disaster from the very beginning. And another area that was mismanaged in this regard was even just going back before that, and that was the engine that this game was built on. For those who don't know, I wish I could, if I can find it post editing and put it in, I'll find the articles talking about it. But I believe that the developers were given like a handful of engines by Ubisoft that they were allowed to use to make the game. And for those who don't remember, they actually made the Xdefiant on an MMO engine. It's not even an FPS engine. And just from the very beginning, you're really setting up your development team for failure if they're being kind of pigeonholed into using an MMO engine, because it's not even meant for an FPS game. And when you saw that time after time, when any new significant update came out, some of the instances of this, I mean, just think Season 1, when it first released, PlayStation users couldn't play the game for a week and a half, 2 weeks, because the FPS was tanked. Season 2 drops and footstep audio is messed up. We can go down the line of all the times something like that happened. And I just think a lot of that goes back to the fact that there was just quirks in the engine in, making changes with the game files when you're updating stuff, and just, tanking things that completely unrelated, but you don't know exactly what you're doing with the engine. You don't have the manpower to fully test it before the changes come out, so then you have to retroactively go back in and change things, fix things, and it's just that, one step forward, 2 step back thing that kept happening every time a new significant update came out, which didn't help player perspective of the game overall either. And then finally, the last little bit of mismanagement that I want to talk about, there's a whole lot of things. Ubisoft is just a mess of a company overall with a lot of their games. Xdefiant's no exception, sadly. But again, just the fact that they are canning it right before Season 3 drops. Again, I don't know the numbers, the math behind how their things are looking in the background behind everything, but if it were me, you're already pumping money into the game. The content is already there, ready to go. They're just presumably fixing up a couple the coding things in the back end. Release it. Let people play it, see how the numbers look, see how public perception is, and then go from there. Make your final decision after that, whatever it may be. And this actually just came to me off the cuff, doing this live more so. And then just another mismanagement thing was never releasing it on Steam. It's a free-to-play game, and I get there's a 30% cut, but you're not even making money off of game sales anyways. People hate, on PC especially, just having to download secondary launchers and like having to go through like those secondary things, installing new things on their computer. It's like, no, I think even just releasing it on Steam, it wouldn't have been, a lot of people present that as some kind of like magical band-aid that would have fixed everything. Like, no, it wouldn't have. But just getting more exposure and making it more easily accessible to a third of the player base, you know, being PC, and just getting more exposure and getting more players, would that have made a big difference in the end? Maybe not, probably not, but it couldn't have hurt. And that's just another example of just shooting themselves in the foot, so to speak. So that's the end of the golden age, if you even want to call it that, for Xdefiant. I just encourage you all to, if you are active on social media platforms, to at the very least just be respectful to developers. Take it from somebody in me who was recently let go of a job. It is not fun. It is a scary transitional time period, and especially for them being right there in the middle of the holiday season, no less. It's a scary time, going through a lot of emotional things. Be respectful to these people. Lots of layoffs are recently happening, not just with the Xdefiant team, but all over the Ubisoft development teams overall. So don't be rude. Don't go out of your way to be rude to them. Not saying go out of your way to be kind to them if you don't want to, but at the very least, be respectful. And now, what is in store for me? I'm going to continue to make content. I'm not sure quite what I'm going to make content on, though. I'm going to be honest, I really had intended to just go hardcore on the Xdefiant grind for a long time because, as I mentioned, I really pursued this as basically a part-time job that I wasn't getting paid for. You know, you go into YouTube and you're not going to make money early, obviously. But YouTube is something that I really wanted to pursue off and on for a large chunk of my life. And one of the biggest mental roadblocks to it for me was just never having a subject matter to make content on that I was like passionate about enough to get through the slog of doing that on top of the daytime job and not burning yourself out, you know? And Xdefiant finally provided a subject matter to me that I truly was passionate about enough, that I enjoyed enough to keep grinding content for. So it is sad to see it go for me in that regard. I have a couple ideas of things that I might be interested in pursuing. I love Magic the Gathering, so MTG Arena is something that I've considered. Single player strategy games like maybe Slay the Spire, things of that nature, definitely catching my eye a bit. If you all have any suggestions or things that you might be interested in seeing, if there's like any good FPS games out there, you know, feel free to like put those in the comments section as well if you'd be interested in seeing me make content on those as well. There's just not many shooter games right now, that competitive multiplayer games, that really, you know, strike that urge that I'm really passionate about. I've played Apex Legends and Overwatch in the past, but I just don't really have that drive in me, I guess is the right word. I'm trying to think of the proper words to describe it, to really pursue those games hardcore like that. And I just don't enjoy Call of Duty anymore, so I don't really think that I would be a good YouTuber just because the passion wouldn't be there. I really do appreciate all of you who have subscribed to me and tuned into the channel to watch my Xdefiant content. For somebody who, let me put it this way, I only have 66 subscribers at the recording of this video, and I know that's minuscule compared to like a lot of these huge channels that y'all probably watch as well. But to somebody who started this channel up in August and did no outside advertisement to friends, family, I have like no social handles at all. And for this to be all organic growth and for y'all to be as kind and supportive to me as you've been, it's truly been a really amazing journey to me, and I want to keep it going. So this is not the end. It's just a beginning of a new age, so to speak. Let's call it that, like that. Now, I understand if y'all were just here for the Xdefiant content and you don't wish to follow me onto whatever new subject matter I start to make content on, I get it. But I really do hope that the majority of you do stick around and at least give me a chance on the new content and see if it interests you, and hopefully keep interacting with y'all, because y'all have been a great little community that I enjoy interacting with. But I can tell that I'm starting to ramble, so I'm gonna stop yapping here. I just want to give a quick update and give my 2 cents on the Xdefiant dying out finally. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to like the video, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to the channel, but only if you enjoy. And as always, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.